I have always been fascinated by Queen Elizabeth II's brooches. Each one is like a tiny masterpiece, carrying a rich history and deep emotions. And what better month to remember her sapphire brooches than September, when this precious gemstone is especially celebrated. Today, I invite you to explore the royal collection and take a closer look at some of the most significant sapphire pieces, from sentimental gifts from her parents to rare heirlooms passed down through generations. We'll also discover symbols of royal love and the jewels that accompanied her throughout her life. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. Prince Albert's sapphire brooch is one of the most significant jewels in the British royal family, with a history dating back to 1840. This magnificent piece, featuring a large sapphire surrounded by 12 large diamonds, was given by Prince Albert to his fiancée, Queen Victoria, on the eve of their wedding. Queen Victoria was so impressed by this gift that she chose to wear it on her wedding dress. This precious gift became a symbol of their love and closeness, and she wore it frequently. After Prince Albert's death in 1861, Queen Victoria rarely wore the brooch, but it always remained close to her heart as a memory of her beloved husband. In her will, she left the brooch to the crown, making it a part of the royal regalia. In the years that followed, the brooch was seldom seen in public. Queen Alexandra, Queen Mary, and the Queen Mother wore it only occasionally. However, with the accession of Queen Elizabeth II in 1952, the brooch once again took a place of honor among her jewels. This sapphire masterpiece became one of the Queen's most frequently worn pieces, accompanying her to numerous important events, including the christening of her grandson, Prince William, in 1982. In 2023, the brooch was first seen on Queen Camilla during a state visit to Germany. In 2024, she also wore the brooch during a visit to the Isle of Man. The Flower Basket Brooch is one of Queen Elizabeth II's most sentimental and cherished pieces, with a rich history that spans over 7 decades. This delightful brooch, crafted in yellow gold, features a basket made of diamonds and emeralds, filled with colorful flowers fashioned from diamonds, emeralds, rubies, and sapphires. The brooch was a gift from her parents, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, in 1948 to celebrate the birth of her first child, Prince Charles. Princess Elizabeth wore the brooch for the first official photograph with her newborn son. The Flower Basket Brooch quickly became a staple in Elizabeth's jewelry collection, frequently appearing at various events. Even after her accession to the throne, the brooch remained a central piece in the Queen's collection. The brooch's array of colorful gemstones made it versatile, though the Queen often paired it with blue-toned outfits. The brooch also played a significant role in marking important family moments. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth wore it to the christening of Prince George, her great-grandson and future king, creating a touching link between generations. That same year, she chose the brooch for her annual Christmas message, using it as a symbol of royal succession. The next brooch we will examine has an interesting connection to Russia and the Romanov dynasty. This piece originally belonged to Empress Maria Feodorovna, the wife of Emperor Alexander III, and the mother of the last Russian emperor, Nicholas II. It's worth noting that Maria Feodorovna was the sister of Queen Alexandra, the wife of King Edward VII. In 1934, after the Russian Revolution and the fall of the monarchy, the brooch was acquired by Queen Mary from Maria Feodorovna's daughters. While the brooch resembles Prince Albert's sapphire brooch, it is easily distinguished by the exquisite gold filigree pattern surrounding the rich sapphire and diamond cluster. After Queen Mary's death in 1953, the brooch passed to Queen Elizabeth II. However, for many years it remained with her mother, the Queen Mother, who frequently wore the brooch in the 1950s and 1960s, using it for both daytime and less formal evening events. Following the Queen Mother's death in 2002, the brooch returned to Queen Elizabeth II's collection, but it did not make a public appearance until more than a decade later, in 2014, during her visit to Pope Francis in the Vatican. The brooch was seen again on the Queen in 2015 at a state banquet in Buckingham Palace in honor of the visit by the Chinese delegation. This historic brooch is now worn by Queen Camilla. She first wore it during the Commonwealth Day service at Westminster Abbey. Recently, she wore the Russian sapphire cluster brooch again during the state visit of the President of South Korea to the United Kingdom. Empress Marie Feodorovna's sapphire brooch is a beautiful example of how pearls can elegantly complement colorful gemstones. This brooch, which combines a cabochon sapphire, diamonds, and a pearl drop, was originally a wedding gift to Princess Dagmar of Denmark, later known as Empress Marie Feodorovna of Russia, when she married the future Tsar Alexander III in 1866. The gift came from her sister and brother-in-law, the future King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra. After the Russian Revolution, the Empress managed to escape with a few precious jewels, including this one. When she passed away in 1928, her daughters sold the brooch to Queen Mary of the United Kingdom in 1930, who added it to her already impressive collection. Queen Mary often wore the brooch, favoring it for public events in the late 1930s. Upon her death in 1953, the brooch was passed down to Queen Elizabeth II, who made it a regular part of her jewelry rotation. It appeared during state visits, important speeches, and personal milestones, such as the Silver Jubilee in 1977. Following the Queen's passing, Princess Anne was seen wearing a similar brooch, sparking speculation that she may have inherited it, adding yet another chapter to this brooch's storied history. The next brooch we'll explore also has ties to Empress Marie Feodorovna of Russia, but this time as a wedding gift. We're talking about Queen Mary's Russian brooch, which was presented to her in 1893 when she married the future King George V. The brooch, crafted in the late 19th century, features a large cabochon sapphire and a square-cut diamond surrounded by smaller diamonds and delicate scrollwork in an unusual geometric design. Upon Queen Mary's death in 1953, the brooch was inherited by Queen Elizabeth II, who wore it throughout her entire reign. The brooch perfectly complemented her blue-toned outfits, echoing the vibrant hue of the sapphire. One of the most memorable appearances of this brooch was at Royal Ascot in 2018, where the Queen pinned it to a bright yellow outfit. The contrast between the deep blue sapphire and the sunny yellow coat created a striking and unforgettable look. The sapphire and diamond grapes brooch is a delightful piece that adds a touch of whimsy to Queen Elizabeth II's collection. This brooch, shaped like a cluster of grapes, features 16 small diamonds forming the grapes, held together by a charming bow crafted from deep blue sapphires. It originally belonged to the Queen Mother and became part of Queen Elizabeth II's collection after her mother's passing in 2002. The Queen first wore this brooch in June 2006 during Royal Ascot, an event closely associated with her mother, adding a sentimental touch to its debut. The brooch has since become a recurring accessory in the Queen's wardrobe, often seen paired with outfits in blue or white tones. Notably, the Queen has a habit of matching the sapphire bow on the brooch with similar bows on her hats, creating a cohesive and elegant look. The Carrington feather brooch stands out in Queen Elizabeth II's extensive collection of sapphire jewelry, particularly because of its unique blue-violet hue. This brooch was gifted to the Queen in 1947 as a wedding present by Carrington and Company, the jeweler that crafted it. Unlike the more common deep royal blue sapphires, the stone in this brooch has a distinct blue-violet color, which shifts depending on the outfit the Queen pairs it with. The brooch features a delicate feather design made of diamonds, with the striking sapphire at its center. Its color can appear more purple when worn against similar tones, as seen when the Queen matches it with purple clothing. However, when paired with bright blue outfits, the sapphire takes on a bluer appearance, showcasing the versatility of the gemstone. The sapphire chrysanthemum brooch is one of the most sentimental pieces in Queen Elizabeth II's collection. Crafted from sapphires and diamonds set in platinum, the brooch was gifted to the then Princess Elizabeth in 1946, when she launched the oil tanker British Princess. This brooch quickly became a cherished piece, accompanying her to important events throughout her life. One of the most famous appearances of the brooch was during Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's honeymoon in 1947. The brooch was prominently featured in a series of portraits taken at Broadlands, Lord Mountbatten's country estate, marking the beginning of their long and storied marriage. 60 years later, in 2007, the Queen and Prince Philip returned to Broadlands to recreate those iconic honeymoon photos, with the Queen wearing the same brooch along with the necklace and earrings from the original shoot. Throughout her reign, the Queen wore this brooch regularly at both personal and state events. From official portraits with her family to public engagements, the brooch became a staple. It was also chosen for important moments like her 2021 Christmas broadcast, the first since Prince Philip's passing, emphasizing the deep sentimental value the brooch holds for her. Featuring sapphires and diamonds arranged in a modern floral design, the brooch was given to the Queen Mother by her husband, King George VI, as an anniversary present. The Queen Mother wore this brooch frequently throughout her life, especially during her later years. One of her final appearances with the brooch was in March 2001 at Sandown Park, just a year before her passing. Upon her death, the brooch was inherited by Queen Elizabeth II. However, the Queen has only worn it publicly on a few occasions, most notably at the opening of the 2011 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Perth, Australia, where she paired it with an outfit featuring navy accents, perfectly complementing the deep blue of the sapphires. The Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake Brooch is one of the more recent additions to Queen Elizabeth II's extensive jewelry collection, gifted to her in 2017 to commemorate her Sapphire Jubilee and the 150th anniversary of Canada's Confederation. This unique brooch, presented by Canada's Governor-General David Johnston, reflects both the Queen's long reign and her deep ties with Canada. Crafted by the Canadian jeweler Hilberg and Burke, the brooch features a snowflake-inspired design, set with diamonds and stunning pale blue sapphires. These sapphires have a special connection to Canada. They were discovered on Baffin Island by two brothers, Simiga and Nodluk Akpik, in 2002. The gemstones vary in size and shade, with darker sapphires in the center gradually lightening towards the edges, all set in white gold. The design of the brooch was intended to complement one of the Queen's other iconic Canadian-related pieces, the diamond maple leaf brooch. The Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch was first presented to the Queen during her visit to Canada House in London in 2017, where she was already wearing the diamond maple leaf brooch, creating a perfect pairing. It wasn't until July 2018 that the Queen wore the Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch publicly for the first time during an audience with King Philippe and Queen Mathilde of Belgium at Windsor Castle. In April 1945, for her 19th birthday, Princess Elizabeth received a delicate and meaningful gift from her parents, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, a floral brooch by Cartier. This exquisite piece is set with rubies, blue sapphires, and pink sapphires, all arranged in a floral design, and it also has a matching pair of earrings. The brooch quickly became a favorite of the young princess. In January 1948, she wore it while helping to assemble food packages for pensioners and widows, a gesture of kindness during the post-war period when rationing was still in effect. The Queen rarely wore this brooch. However, in the final years of her life, Queen Elizabeth II chose this brooch for significant events. In April 2022, the brooch made another appearance during a virtual audience with diplomats, where the Queen participated via video link from Windsor Castle. One of the last times the brooch was seen on the Queen was during the Chelsea Flower Show in May 2022. Dressed in a pink lemonade coat, the Queen toured the show in a motorized cart, affectionately dubbed the Queen Mobile. This floral-themed brooch was especially fitting for the occasion, serving as a symbol of her deep connection to her past and her enduring love of flowers. Queen Mary's emerald and sapphire flower brooch is a striking piece that has recently re-emerged in the public eye thanks to Queen Camilla. The brooch features a diamond set within soft emeralds and sapphires, arranged in the shape of a flower. Although the exact origin of the brooch is unknown, it was part of Queen Mary's collection during her time as Princess of Wales, though it is not listed among her wedding gifts. Queen Mary famously wore this brooch in 1909 when she hosted the Russian imperial family on the Isle of Wight during Cow's Week. A series of portraits were taken during this event, capturing the brooch's elegance. After Queen Mary's death in 1953, the brooch was passed down to her granddaughter, Queen Elizabeth II, who wore it on several occasions, most notably at the Royal Windsor Horse Show in 1997. Following Queen Elizabeth II's death in 2022, the brooch was inherited by King Charles III. It made its first appearance on Queen Camilla during the Easter Sunday service at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle in 2024. The Cartier gold and sapphire flower clips are a striking pair of brooches with a rich history in the royal family. These brooches, set with clusters of cushion-shaped sapphires and brilliant-cut diamonds, were bought separately by King George VI and Queen Elizabeth in 1942 and 1945. Princess Elizabeth took the Cartier gold and sapphire flower clips on her tour of Canada in 1951, where she wore them on several occasions. In the 1960s, the Queen reserved these brooches mostly for personal occasions, with one notable appearance in the spring of 1962 before they disappeared from public view for several decades. It wasn't until the early 1990s that the Cartier gold and sapphire flower clips reappeared in the Queen's jewelry rotation, being worn for daytime engagements. The brooches recently reappeared when Queen Camilla wore them during the Royal Maundy service at Worcester Cathedral. And so, our fascinating journey through the royal treasures comes to an end. Which of these sapphire brooches do you like the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new stories about royal jewels.